Hi, this is Kelly with Gia's Italian Kitchen. We are going on a road trip today. We are going across Iowa to outside of Des Moines to the Quercia prosciutto factory. That's right, there is a prosciutto factory in Iowa, and we are going to tour it and taste and bring you along with and show you how this company has transformed prosciutto from Italy right here domestically. So stay tuned and we will give you a tour, and hopefully you will be salivating right along with us. Let's get cooking.
Right, so the hams come from our parent company. The premium Iowa pork, premium Minnesota pork is all part of Quercia now, and that's we get our raw material from them. They raise the animals. They also have the harvest and cut facility, and we receive the raw product from them.
So how do you determine which pigs you use or not use? Like, I'm assuming there's a difference.
The brand Quercia is built on Berkshire. They raise a few different heritage breed, but Berkshire is the breed that Quercia is built on, and that breed is really special to prosciutto making and salumi in Italy. It's initially an English breed, but there's a really romantic story out there about a pig swimming across the English Channel and walking down to Italy, and an emperor there. They made some prosciutto out of it, and they decided that this was the only pig they wanted to make prosciutto out of. So even some of the top houses that produce prosciutto in Parma, San Daniele, they'll also be using a breed that is similar, or also these genetics of Berkshire.
Interesting. So you're really keeping a lot of the tradition of how they produce prosciutto in Italy.
Correct. Yeah.
Here.
And the foundation of that goes back to the founder of Quercia. So Herb Eckhouse started Quercia over 20 years ago. And at that time, he worked for a company here in Des Moines and was stationed in Parma. And he lived in Parma for about 4 or 5 years or something like that. And that's where he kind of got to know the salumi makers there and experienced all of the meats there, and then kind of started that question in his mind. The seed started there, like, well, in Iowa we produce really great pork. Is it possible to produce something on par with what is made in Italy in Iowa? And when he moved back, he started kind of exploring that question. And you could say, and many people would say that we're on par. You know, we even hear that from Italian makers that we're the best that America has to offer, and that we're comparable. So
that's awesome. So we have the prosciutto Americana. We have soppressata. What's the difference?
Well, so soppressata is a salami that is going to be made from some of the trim. The soppressata as well. This one is a spicy version. The thing about salami is it's a much slower process, or a faster process. You know, these will be a 2 to 3 month at the most to produce a large salami like that, where a whole ham prosciutto with the bone in is going to cure for a minimum of 10 to 12 months. So
nice.
So
can someone buy the whole leg?
Yes, we do sell. Yeah, we sell bulk.
Because I want the whole leg.
We sell bulk as well. You know, that's mostly like restaurants, folks that are going through a large amount on a daily or weekly basis. All these retail packages you'll find with retail partners that we have across the U.S. Or individual small independent shops will also carry stuff like this. That is just super convenient.
I know is at Hy-Vee. If you're in Iowa, where else could folks get it?
Hy-Vee, Whole Foods is a partner nationally. Fairway here in Iowa also carries a couple varieties of our stuff. And then
But you import all over or export all over the country?
Yeah, we're a national brand. Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's the Burkle Slicer?
The Burkle Slicer was made by a man named Van Burkle. He was a Dutch butcher early on in the Industrial Revolution. Part of the problem was everything was hand cut, and he really wanted to be able to slice things. One of his main customer complaints was the consistency of the cut. So he worked to develop this slicing machine, and it's become the standard when it comes to slicing salumi and charcuterie meats, because it can slice things so thin and so well. This is what I like to say is the origin of what you call a cold cut, because there is no electric motor that turns this blade, and it doesn't warm up in any way. The blade itself as well is concave on this side. So as the meat passes past it, the only thing that touches the blade is the meat. And then when the machine pulls the plate back, it won't touch the blade. It only moves over once it's come all the way back. So really, this is like a razor's edge here. Really, really, really sharp. But this hand crank, so there is no, there's no electric. This hand crank is what moves the plate and as soon as I stop, everything stops as well. The blade stops moving, the plate stops moving, right? And
so what are we cutting here?
This is a salami Americano, kind of a proprietary salami that we make here. And we name a lot of the things that we make Americano, and that just pays homage to the fact that we're an American company. All of the pork that we use is domestically raised. While we are old world charcuterie techniques, the domestic product, we like to pay homage to that and say that we aren't Parma prosciutto, we're Americano prosciutto. So there is a difference. That's a protected name in Italy, the Parma or San Daniele. Those are things that like we can't claim to be.
Because you're not from the region.
We're not from the region, right? So, but again, we do what we can in our area to let the pork that's raised here speak for itself, because it is a reflection of the terroir, or where it's raised and what it's fed. In so much that, like we mentioned, we just use salt and thyme. So the raw material and what it is when we get it really is just an expression there at the end, because we've just lost a lot of water weight and concentrated the flavor. So the raw material we start with is really the most important piece of this puzzle. Definitely. You know, we play a role, but really we're just kind of stewards of that raw material, and letting it express itself at the end is what we're doing. So
when you're comparing prosciutto, whether it's imported or domestic, it's more the breed of the pig, not necessarily the ingredients used to cure it, or what's the difference?
Well,
so maybe domestic, but different versions of prosciutto. What's the difference in the ingredients or the process?
Yeah, so Parma specifically, we know that the other thing we think of in Parma is Parmesan. Right. So the pork that's raised in Parma and raised for making Parma cotta, Parma prosciutto, they're fed the whey from that cheese making process. That's a requirement for those pigs. So when you eat a Parma ham, one of the things they say you should taste is Parmesan cheese.
Oh, that makes sense.
Because they're eating the whey from the milk of that cheese process. It's a rest product that they have, and the pigs love to eat it. You know, they mix it with grain. That's essentially part of their feed profile.
Okay.
So
it really does come down to the animal.
Does come down to the animal and the feed. Yeah.
Okay.
Very cool. That harks back to, like I said, the acorns being part of the feed profile. Acorns, any sort of tree nut has a lot of what we're doing.
So when someone's in the store and they're looking at a wide variety of salamis, other things are added, such as black pepper or whatever, to make these salamis different.
Yeah.
Do you guys add
varieties of that other than just our salamis will have different ingredients as far as flavoring goes. One thing we don't do with our salamis is a high heat. So in large batch commercial or commodity salami, they'll use a high heat that speeds up the process. So it makes sense that they can produce more faster. But the other thing that does is that raises the pH of the meat. So you get more of a tangy and sharp flavor. Like some salamis will kind of burn.
Yeah.
your mouth, the salt, and that's also going back to not using nitrites or nitrates.
Okay.
Those pink salts will kind of burn the mouth, or you'll get it. It's a different mouth feel. Okay. Is the best way to describe it. Ours should be buttery, mild, you know, and also, like I said, you shouldn't get that kind of tang. The acidity, the pH has to do with the alkalinity and acidity of the meat. And when you raise the temperature, that pH rises and you get a little bit more of a acid in the meat. Okay. Trimming and boning out hams. And then the machine down here is what we call a press. So when they get the whole leg, we'll see that later, the bone is in it, and then they take out the bone so it kind of flowers open, so you can see that the bone's just been taken out of that. So then they'll trim, continue to trim, and then once we have it, it gets pressed into a block down here and tied. So we're kind of, like I said, we're starting at the end of the process. But for food safety, that's why we start here.
So what are these folks doing here?
So they're trimming everything off of the hams. So
with that big piece, trimming.
The outside.
Yep, everything that has dried to the point where we don't want that to be something that we send out that people are going to be using. And that's the difference between, like, so if you get a traditional Italian banjo ham that still has the skin and bone on it, you know, at the best you'll probably have about a 65% yield out of that. Okay. And with the way that we trim and tie, you'll have about a 95 to 97% yield because we trim all of that waste off before it gets to the customer. It doesn't mean that, like, it's not there in the price, because typically you buy an Italian banjo, they'll probably be half the price of ours. But
because you've done work on it.
Because we've gotten that out, like, there isn't something for them to they don't have a bone that they have to throw away, or the skin and other things.
So this machine is pressing
what we call, it's a press. Yeah. There's a big hydraulic press that pushes the meat into more of a compact kind of block package, right?
Is that done before or after it's sealed?
Well, here it looks to me like they're preparing them for...
those have plastic on them.
Yeah, those look like they're preparing them for slicing. So they're just getting them as... to go through the slicer as well, we put them into a freezer for an amount of time just to get them not hard frozen, but as stiff as possible for that slicer to slice them really thin.
Okay.
And,
So in that bin,
what are they doing down there? They were putting...
Yeah. So this looks like is this the picante?
Yeah.
Are you guys doing picante?
So can you tell us anything that's in there? It's secret, isn't it?
Yeah. So we don't inject anything either, right? So there's no liquid. We lose the water weight through the curing process, and then any sort of flavor that is in our meats or our prosciuttos is a topical application after the curing process. So I like to refer to that prosciutto Americano that we tried up front as like the mother ham. That's the mother ham. That's where everything kind of starts, right? And we cure all the hams the same, and then after we boned out that you just saw and trimmed, we can either sell that as prosciutto Americano. We can introduce smoke to it, a cold smoke that we then sell as spec. We rub it to make it picante, or some of the jambone products that are spicy, honey and herb, black cherry pepper. Those are all topical applications after, so we're not injecting or adding any sort of liquid to them. So, here, let's step over. Yeah, so this is the slicer. It's slicing. You can see the packages kind of coming out there. And then a little bit further down is the vac seal machine where it actually seals it. So, I mean, while there is machinery in here, you can see that, like, there's still a lot of handwork.
Yeah,
right? There's a lot of stuff that's done by hand, right? We can't.
Okay, so what is he doing now?
So the femur is the main bone that's still in that ham.
Okay.
When it cures, so that 10 to 12 months we talked about.
Uh-huh.
So then they come into this room and they're boned out, and this is just a really skilled cutting position.
So
to be able to remove that bone without wasting
losing
little,
the meat. Yeah.
Losing its.
But that contraption is just holding the meat. He's doing that all by hand.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. So you'll see it will kind of continue to press and open that ham up a little bit as he kind of works. See how it's kind of like helping open that up and get the.
But he's doing that one by one.
Yep.
D-bone, and these guys, all these guys over here.
These guys over here removing what's called the H-bone.
What's the H-bone?
So the H-bone, see this hole or the what's
kind of the joint?
The H-bone is the top of the pelvis.
Yeah, okay.
That still remains on it when we cure.
Wow. And then...
That's the femur, yeah.
What do you... Look at all those. What do you do with all those?
Those are, I believe, rests. You know, they can be sold to rendering or things like that. But they're,
okay. That would make great soup stock.
I know, that's what I said. What do you do with those bones? Do you sell them?
This is what you think of, at least what I think of, when you say, what does prosciutto look like? This huge room, rooms and rooms and rooms of all the legs hanging. Yep. So this is the curing, the drying, where they're
Correct.
Sitting for the 10, 12 months?
10 to 12 months back here, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So is the temperature the same throughout?
So as we'll move through a few more rooms, you'll feel some different temperatures.
Yeah.
One of the unique things that we do here is we try and emulate the seasons with a few of our rooms. And that happens at the beginning of the process. The majority of the aging is done in this room. And you can feel this room's,
it's not
70,
very cold. Yeah.
70 degrees, 65 maybe, right? More ambient than refrigerated. The other rooms to emulate the cave system that would have been used in
That's
Parma,
what I was going to ask.
right?
Yeah, the caves.
So the farmer would have typically drove the herd of animals up the mountain in the fall. They would have foraged on those tree nuts, acorns, and hickory nuts, and then the harvest would have taken place at the top of the mountain. They would have salted and used a cave at the top of the mountain, right, for it to winter there. And that cave would have been drier, colder, right? And then as the spring came around, they would have moved the product down the mountain to the spring cave, and the spring cave would have been more humid, right? A little bit more moisture, but still cool.
Yeah.
And then it would have moved to a summer cave, and the summer cave would be the warmest and the most humid.
Okay.
And that would be the time before it went to the fall. And in the fall, like they would have a place where it would stay then for a longer period of time. So this room kind of emulates the fall cave, right? The finishing.
Will this rack stay here, or did these move in those 10, 12 months?
So for the majority of the time, that would live in this room.
Okay.
Yeah. Now they can kind of move through this room.
It's fine.
Right? They can move through this room. So as we go through, you should be able to see a difference between what is ready, probably starting to move out and go into the room we were just in with boning, and the stuff the most recent stuff that has come in as far as the size and the look of it. The other thing you'll see, let's see on, maybe we'll see it on some further back here. Some good examples. There's often a window kind of left on these hams that isn't rubbed with that lard and white pepper, and that window is also meant as a space for the moisture to be drawn out. That's like if we sealed it completely, we might not get that water to evaporate and move out of the ham. So this is like a window that you'll see on a lot of hams that is left.
Wow.
To encourage that water to evaporate and lose that weight.
This is so impressive.
Yeah, it's really neat, right?
Oh
yeah,
my gosh.
I mean, it goes all the way back
Yeah.
here. And then we're just kind of bringing hams in. We're bringing hams in on a normal basis, right? So each week we'll receive some, and then that creates the rotation, right?
Sure,
so,
yeah.
We were looking at this one that's been released, like that's the stuff that they're taking in, and then what we were looking at there will probably flow back.
Okay.
And rotate back forward here, and this is where we're always kind of.
So the racks will move, but they stay in this. They stay in this room, so that they stay at this temperature.
The new product continues to flow in.
So before they get to the deboning, do they ever go below this 70-degree temperature when they're curing?
No, not really.
Okay.
I mean, in the other rooms, you'll feel the winter will be a little bit colder, and there's a lot more airflow.
But that's when they're processing it already.
It's during the
Sitting,
process.
yeah.
They would have contracted farmers and had say this farmer was going to send us 250 head. Well, because maybe they had to treat some of them with antibiotics, and we never used those. By the time they were ready to harvest, they may have had 200.
Okay.
And then there's always size variance in a herd of animals as well. So they may have been receiving a 16-pound ham, a 20-pound ham, a 24-pound ham, which just made it much more difficult for them. And the processor or packer would have probably been cutting the ham to a spec, and then they would have had to do a lot of trim. And that's where a lot of the salami and things like that, those pieces come from, having to trim out and create trim. Now being integrated into that fresh side of premium Iowa pork, we're vertically integrated. And that packer piece, they cut these hams to our spec before they walk in the door.
Got it.
Which has been a really good thing for us as a company, long term, to be able to bring in the pieces trimmed to our spec.
Yeah.
And then we can also we can say, well, we only want hams this week. We don't want any bellies.
Oh.
Where before he would have been responsible for the entire pig. He would have been buying the pig from the farmer or contracted that farmer to raise that pig for him. So he only gets 2 hams off of every pig, but he also gets 2 bellies, 2 loins,
Got it.
2 front
and you
legs.
got to do something with
and he
it.
had to, so that's where being able to carcass utilization is a big term in the meat world, right?
Yeah.
Being able to use the whole animal, and charcuterie does use the whole animal, but the brand is built on hams, and that's where the majority of our focus is. And we're just fortunate now to be part of that fresh side and be able to decide where we focus our time and energy.
Okay.
We still make a lot of wonderful small mussels and salamis, but we're not forced into it until we need to, right?
Okay.
So, and again, like that trim is being left at the packing house, and then they sell the trim. We don't have to. We don't have to think about where it goes or what to do with it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, has made our lives easier. We can focus solely on producing the ham.
So when did you make that change?
Us, probably within a few days. It's like a year of the purchase. It's only been about a year, but yeah, has been good for everybody.
Yeah.
Herb and Kathy were in their 50s when they started the business, so that was over 20 years ago. They were in their 70s and ready to kind of walk away and retire, spend time with their grandchildren. And the fresh side was really excited because they had never really had a value add facility beyond a fresh cut and pack. So to have a facility they can send fresh product into and value add that in 10, 12 months, have something they can sell for $20 a pound as opposed to $2 is a great thing, so.
Nice.
And again, like we talked about, this process is millennia old. The idea is taking that fresh product and it being able to be enjoyed, for years to come, rather than only you have a month to eat a fresh product. So.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, this is so cool.
Yeah, that's what we call weeping. You see it kind of running down and even running into the drains there.
Wow.
Yeah, packed with salt and left in here for.
So this is really the form that, minus the salt, the form that you get them in. And they come here, get salted. How long are they going to sit in this room?
Well, let's see. I mean, I would guess if maybe early next week. Yeah, they're the 31st. and we saw stuff from the 30th was already over there.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Wow. More shelves of meat. Oh my gosh. Is your mouth watering? It looks like they're frozen, but they're not. That's just dripping salt.
Yeah, we're removing water weight at this point. Yeah.
No, I mean,
and the other thing is the salt is penetrating all the way through the meat. We want salt content to be all the way through the meat. So, yeah.
Wow, very cool.
Produces something similar, right? Nitrates and nitrates are things that happen naturally.
Okay.
So what we would use is the celery juice powder, and celery has like celery seed and celery salt. Produces something similar to a nitrate, or something that's a naturally occurring nitrite and nitrate, as opposed to like a chemically produced nitrate.
So what's the purpose? Preservative?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it has to do with, I mean, when things are cured, you know, that's what it's curing salt is what it is.
Oh, okay.
But we only use a sea salt, so our hams are just sea salt. There's no like celery, but it's often done in some sort of like most or all salamis that I can think of will have some sort of, even when there are claims about no nitrates and nitrites, they're using some sort of celery or some sort of naturally occurring cure to produce that same, and it has to do with the kill step, right? We have to make sure that we're not producing bacteria or have an environment in our products that can produce bacteria to make people ill, right? So, yeah. So I think it's definitely better, right, using the naturally